Here is the complete, fully adapted translation of your script into Native American English. The tone has been carefully adjusted to sound like a wise, engaging, and authoritative mentor, perfect for a high-retention YouTube documentary. All paragraph counts, block structures, and specific book-search resource references have been strictly preserved to maintain the video's exact pacing and length. Your city floods. Every single year. Your streets turn into rivers, and your financial losses just keep piling up. But here's the truth nobody is telling you. Your city floods. Every year. Engineers knew why. They had the maps. They knew the risks. Yet the asphalt kept rolling out, and the real solution stayed buried under concrete. What looks like a natural disaster is, in reality, a massive design flaw. Your city floods. Every year. Engineers knew why. And today we are going to expose the hidden gears behind this urban chaos. To learn how to protect your family and your hard-earned assets in this uncertain landscape, subscribe right now to Empire Structures. We are on a mission to hit our first 1,000 subscribers and build the largest community of infrastructure titans in the United States. Join us to master what everyone else prefers to ignore. Topic 1. The illusion of safety and the 100-year flood myth. Imagine the sheer frustration of buying your dream home in a beautiful American suburb, being told by your realtor that the area is completely safe, and then, in the very first year, watching floodwater rush right into your living room. Well, my friends, this happens because so many people still fall hook, line, and sinker for the famous 100-year flood myth, a misunderstood technical term that gives the false impression that a disaster only happens once a century. In reality, this metric simply means there is a 1% chance of a major flood happening every single year, turning what seemed like a safe haven into a literal game of climatic Russian roulette. Looking from the outside in, it almost feels like a bad joke. But civil engineers and urban planners have always known better, since math simply doesn't lie. To understand how this illusion plays out in the real world, you just have to look at what happened to Houston during Hurricane Harvey. Neighborhoods that were theoretically way out of the danger zone ended up completely underwater, proving that FEMA's flood maps are more outdated than cassette tapes. Blindly trusting these old statistics without upgrading local infrastructure is the exact equivalent of ignoring the flashing red check engine light on your dashboard and pretending everything is just fine. To avoid being at the mercy of these nasty surprises, a conscious citizen needs to take the reins and seek deep knowledge. Like the eye-opening insights found in Jeff Goodell's book, The Water Will Come, which pulls back the curtain on the reality of our cities. Assessing your neighborhood's actual drainage history and investing in individual prevention measures, like portable flood barriers and functional landscaping, are the critical first steps to protecting your property before that next emergency alert starts blaring on your phone at 3 a.m. After all, water always finds a way, especially when asphalt tries to muscle in on the space that belonged to nature in the first place. Topic 2. The concrete jungle effect and drainage failure. The glaring issue with our modern metropolises is that they were built under the relentless logic of paving over everything with asphalt and concrete, completely forgetting that the earth needs to breathe and above all absorb water. When a torrential downpour hits New York or Chicago, the natural soil, which would normally act as a godsend sponge, is nowhere to be found, replaced instead by miles of impermeable gray pavement. The byproduct of this aggressive engineering is that all that heavy rainfall rushes straight into the storm drains at a terrifying speed, turning quiet residential streets into raging rivers in a matter of minutes. If we stop to look closer, the hard truth is that our underground sewer systems are historical relics belonging to a bygone era, and they simply can't take the punch of modern urban growth anymore. Older cities across the East Coast still rely on combined drainage systems designed back when populations were infinitely smaller and weather patterns were far more predictable, triggering an inevitable collapse with every new severe storm season. It is like trying to drain an Olympic-sized swimming pool using nothing but a plastic straw. The system simply hits its maximum capacity, and the backed-up water comes forcing its way right back up through the pipes. To see this in action, you only need to notice how neighborhoods that traded their grassy backyards for concrete patios and covered driveways suffer significantly more, showing that small local choices create a massive collective ripple effect. Anyone looking to truly grasp this urban dynamic can dive into the timeless lessons of Ian McHarg's book, Design with Nature, a masterpiece that teaches how city planning should work hand in hand with the environment, not against it. This stubborn resistance to adapting our urban spaces to the natural flow of water ends up costing a pretty penny, where backroom financial decisions carry way more weight than public safety itself. Topic 3. The Profit over Protection Dilemma. On the grand chessboard of American urban development, there is a silent force that often speaks louder than the laws of physics and the warnings of engineers: immediate real estate profit. In many fast-growing cities, like certain metro areas in Florida and Texas, the rush to greenlight new residential subdivisions and shopping centers ends up steamrolling common sense and long-term planning. The result of this greed is the approval of developments built right in the middle of known floodplains, low-lying areas that nature itself designed specifically to hold excess water during massive floods. Of course, nobody sees the red flags when they are signing the closing papers, as the beautiful green lawns and modern facades completely mask the hidden dangers lurking right beneath their feet. Mega developers pull in billions selling these properties, passing the future damages and the massive headaches directly onto the average citizen's wallet and the city's public budget. This short-sighted logic strongly mirrors the aggressive mentality broken down in Napoleon Hill's classic, The Law of Success, where chasing personal gain without cooperation or social responsibility ultimately brings down the ruin of the entire surrounding community. For anyone looking to shield themselves from this financial and housing trap, the safest bet is to learn how to audit your own area using public tools like the FEMA Flood Map Service Center before dropping your hard-earned money. Double-checking whether your local municipality actually has an updated, transparent stormwater master plan is absolutely vital to avoid buying a lemon and keeping your life savings from turning into mud. The plot thickens even more when we realize that this game of economic interests doesn't hit everyone the same way, drawing a very distinct line right through our cities. Topic 4. Redlining and infrastructure disparity. When you look at the map of any major American city, you quickly realize that floods don't pick their victims out of a hat. There is a very clear historical pattern carved out by past public spending. Back in the 1930s and 1940s, the government and banks cooked up a system called redlining, which literally drew red lines across urban maps to deny investments to minority neighborhoods. The echoes of this systemic discrimination are still beating loud and clear today, as these exact historically marginalized areas were left with the absolute worst runoff and drainage infrastructure. It is a harsh, counterintuitive reality for many, but a person's zip code in the United States still dictates with ironclad certainty whether they will wake up to a flooded home after a summer storm. While wealthier neighborhoods boast modern linear parks and state-of-the-art storm management, low-income communities are left holding the bag with clogged catch basins and completely obsolete pipes. To truly understand this machinery of inequality built into the asphalt, reading Richard Rothstein's book, The Color of Law, is absolutely non-negotiable, as it shines a bright light on how the state itself drew up the segregation of our cities. Learning about these stark disparities shows us that fixing urban flooding goes way beyond buying a solid sump pump for your basement or raising your front curb. A conscious citizen must organize locally and demand community infrastructure audits, actively showing up to town halls and participatory budgeting meetings to push funds where the danger is actually real. When it's all said and done, there is no point in protecting your own backyard if the macro system around you was set up to fail. A lesson that even the most powerful agencies in the country learned the hard way. Topic 5. The Army Corps of Engineers and the Levee Paradox. For over a century, the grand strategy of American civil engineering, spearheaded by the mighty U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, was built on the premise that mankind could tame nature through sheer force. Billions of dollars were poured into building colossal levees, concrete channels, and massive dams along majestic rivers like the Mississippi, trying to lock the water into precision-guided paths. This purely militaristic approach created a false sense of absolute control, causing entire cities to grow rapidly in the shadow of these megastructures, blindly trusting that those walls of earth and concrete would hold back any historic storm. The great paradox that experts have always known is that by trapping a river inside a narrow channel, you drastically increase the speed and pressure of that water, creating a far greater hazard downriver. When the volume hits a tipping point and these artificial defenses inevitably fail or get overtopped, the resulting disaster is infinitely more destructive than a natural, gradual flood would have ever been. The catastrophic failure of the levees in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina stands as the most painful real-world example of this phenomenon, proving that trying to enslave Mother Nature usually ends up leaving civilians with a devastating bill to pay. For those wanting to dig deeper into this fascinating and tragic battle between man and water, John McPhee's brilliant book, The Control of Nature, is an absolute must-read that will expand your mind on the subject. Understanding this paradox forces us to realize that our engineering mindset needs an urgent overhaul from fighting the water to making room for the water if we want our cities to survive. This paradigm shift is already quietly taking root in certain corners of the world, pointing toward a smart, revolutionary way out that completely rewrites our relationship with the urban environment. Topic 6. The Sponge City Revolution as a Solution. The ultimate game changer for the future of our communities lies in stopping the war against natural forces and finally designing cities that work alongside them. The revolutionary concept of sponge cities, which is already transforming landscapes across the globe, proposes that urban design be fundamentally rethought to absorb, store, and filter rainwater right where it falls. Instead of funneling every drop into obsolete, overwhelmed storm drains, the strategy focuses on blanketing urban centers with smart green infrastructure, restoring the Earth's natural water management capacity. In practice, this means swapping out traditional parking lot asphalt for permeable pavements that let water seep through, while spreading rain gardens and green roofs across major high-rises. Pioneering American cities like Seattle and Philadelphia are already reaping the rewards by turning gray areas into beautiful floodable parks, public spaces that swallow excess floodwaters without taking damage while beautifying the neighborhood. This is the real-world execution of the philosophy of adaptability that Napoleon Hill championed so heavily, showing that mastermind individuals don't complain about their environment. They engineer creative solutions to thrive right in the middle of it. If you want to see this transformation take place on your own block, the best move is to study the green infrastructure manuals provided by the EPA, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and pitch these solutions at your neighborhood association meetings. Investing in your own property by creating landscaped retention basins or installing rainwater harvesting systems are excellent individual ways to join this eco-revolution and boost your property value. Transitioning to more resilient, intelligent cities is the only safe path forward to ensure that future generations won't have to pack up and abandon their homes every single time storm season rolls around. Conclusion. In light of everything we've broken down today, a critical question remains that every American citizen needs to ask themselves: how long are you going to passively watch your community go under, while the exact same engineering blunders keep happening right under your nose? The knowledge you gain today strips away any excuse for staying in your comfort zone or remaining in the dark. It is high time we stop looking at floods as a mere fluke of the weather and start seeing them for what they really are: the direct consequence of human and political choices. Are you going to keep ignoring the writing on the wall and waiting for the next evacuation order to pop up on your phone? Or are you going to start auditing your own neighborhood safety and demanding real solutions from City Hall? Changing your life and protecting your assets starts the moment you decide to become the most strategic, well-informed mind on your street. To keep mastering the hidden mechanics of urban development and ensure you are never caught off guard by a broken system, subscribe right now to Empire Structures and turn on those notifications. We are on a clear mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers and solidify the most dominant community of infrastructure titans in the United States. Do not get left behind by this movement of conscious, prepared citizens. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and we will see you in the next video.